Coming up on the Amazing Art Show, terrific tiles. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Amazing Art Show. I'm your host, Angie Beam, and today we are doing some terrific tiles. And you're gonna need some stuff, so let's go over what you're gonna need. You are going to need to break into the kitchen. You're going to need some foil. If you can get the kind that says heavy duty on it, that's the best. If yours doesn't say heavy duty, it will work, but you'll just have to be really, really careful with it. You are going to need some circular items to trace around. So really anything will work. And you'll also need some Q-tips. You'll need a ruler, pencil. I would like for you to also get some colored permanent markers. I'm using Sharpie brand, but you don't have to use that brand. And a brush. And then you kind of got some options on the glue that we're going to use today. I'm going to show you both. One is just like a matte medium where you paint it on, or like Mod Podge. And then the other is like a spray adhesive. And you can do either one, really will be fine. And then also you're going to need either this tacky glue, which we've used before, or you can also use a hot glue. So if you're going to use the hot glue gun though, you want to make sure that you have some assistance with that because you will burn yourself. So I tried both ways and I really liked this the best. So if you can get your hands on some of this, that would be the best thing for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our project and where we're kind of coming up with our theme here. So we're talking radial symmetry today. And radial symmetry means that it starts kind of at the center point and then it radiates out. So it's a design that is balanced, it has symmetry, but it all kind of starts from the center and then it has things that are all balanced around it. So it could be shapes, it could be lines, different types of patterns, but they all kind of center around the center point. So I've got a couple examples because this is used all over the world in art. And so like these examples here are some Mexican tiles, and you see a lot of radial symmetry used in, see how it starts in the middle and then it radiates kind of out. And so a lot of the designs will do that. This is more in the Middle East. They have these like plates that they will do, and they once again have that radial symmetry where the pattern starts in the center and then it works its way out. All right, and then this one is not so much circular, but you do kind of get where it starts kind of at the center and works its way out. But you know, we've talked about Escher before, and so let's get to what we're going to be making today. And I totally forgot, you're going to need some paper. You're going to need some really thick paper today. Like mat board or cardboard. You could cut up a cereal box. That'll work fine as well. It actually will probably even work better than this because this has a little bit of texture to it. So just any kind of a rough kind of cardboard that you can get your hands on. And then you want to cut it into some kind of a square. It's up to you how big you want to make your square. And I've actually got several that are various sizes. So let's start with our creating our radial design. So I always like to start by doing 2 diagonal lines, and that way I can definitely find my center point. So remember how we've talked about using your ruler before. So you're going to line up your corners and then you're going to spread out your hand so that as you're working with it, it's going to not shift all around, and you're going to just lightly do your line, and then you can flip it, and I'm gonna do same thing just on the other side. And now this is my center point, so I know that's where the middle is. And then this is where you can get your different circle patterns that you have found, and you can kind of line things up and get them in the center, and you can just trace around them. So we're kind of using them as a pattern today. I'm trying to make sure I've got mine here centered. and you can just trace that shape. Put that one to the side, and then this is just some other little tape that I found, but I like the width of it. And I'm going to go around here. Not only am I going to do the outer part of this one, I'm also going to do the inner part. So I kind of have like a bullseye. So that's kind of how I'm going to start my pattern off. And then from there, you can kind of decide what else you want to do as it starts to radiate out towards the edges. And one of the things, like that helps me remember, you know, radial symmetries, I always think of like the rays of the sun and how they come out from the sun is like the ball in the middle, and then the rays of the sun all shine out. So that's kind of what always helps me to remember that. All right, so for my other designs, I think I'm actually going to come in here, and I'm just going to do kind of like a petal, like a flower petal on this side and on this side. And you want these to be symmetrical, but I'm not going to get like so nitpicky about it that I just freak myself out. So I'm not going to stress too much if it's not exact, but I want to get as close as I can. And for the most part, I mean, a lot of artists that we were talking about, like from the Middle East and the Mexican tiles, a lot of that's done by hand. So it's not always perfect, but that's kind of what's unique and interesting about them, is that everyone is just a little different because they're not all exactly the same. And then from here, I think I'm going to do some kind of like some lines that are going to come out diagonally. And I'm going to have this one go straight. All right, so it's going to look like that. And I think here I'm just going to come in and do just some curving lines that'll go almost to the edge. Now your pattern that you do, you don't want it to be so incredibly intricate and detailed that it just is a headache for you when you start to do the glue, because remember, whether you're using the you know, the hot glue, or you're using this other glue that we were talking about, you know, there's only so much control that you can have over it. So keep in mind, you don't want itty bitty little details. You want everything to be pretty simple lines and not anything too overly difficult. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And then this is where you're going to either do your hot glue or you're going to do your tacky glue. And all you have to do now, the other thing I was going to show you is I don't have to keep my diagonal lines. I can actually remove some of those, and I don't want those. So I'm going to erase that from these areas, but I am going to leave them on the outer parts. All right, so now I'm ready to start outlining. And this glue, what I like about it is it's really thick, because when you go to do the tin foil part, it works awesome, because when it dries, it stays very thick. It doesn't lay down kind of flat. And so basically, you're just going to roll along, stay on your line, and I usually kind of like when I get to the end, I just kind of scrape it at the end, because then that, if you don't, you kind of get this little weird string thing. So when you get to the end, just kind of run it up against the edge. So I would finish doing that, and I would outline everything, and then you're going to need to let it dry for a good 24 hours. And so I have one of those that I've already done that's already dry. So this is what it looks like when it dries. See, this is the one that I did with this glue. So you can see how nice and thick my lines were. My lines were not as thick on my finished product. That's the one that I tried the hot glue on. It was kind of difficult to do. So this was, I felt like you could control it a lot better. All right, so now we're ready to put the foil on. So we're going to tear off a piece of foil. And I usually just like to make sure that I have a piece that is going to be big enough to kind of go around the back. And then on your foil, you have like a super shiny side and you have a dull side. You want the shiny side to show. That's like a tongue twister. And so you're going to put your design will be basically is going to go under here. But it works a lot better if you can kind of get some glue down into these areas. So this is where you've got your options for your glue. So you can spray glue, which just because we're here in the studio and it makes a little bit of a mess, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this other one. But you don't have to be super specific about it. It's just kind of get it on there and move on. So I'm just going to seriously just kind of slap it on there. You do not have to be like super careful with it. You don't want like it to be super, super wet. You just want it to be kind of tacky. If you get it too wet, it's going to probably activate your glue again, so you don't want that. And I'm not being real particular. I'm just kind of quickly getting some on there. And you do have to work kind of quick because you want it to be still kind of wet and tacky when you put your foil on there. And if you've got little openings, like make sure you get some glue down in there. All right, so that looks good. No, wait, I see a little spot I missed. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure I've got my shiny side up, and I'm going to lay my foil down on top and just kind of press it down. And for your initial kind of pressing down, you don't have to get super nitpicky about it. We're going to do that here in a minute. You're just kind of getting it down now. So now once we've got it on there, you can now flip it over. And you can use that same glue and just kind of throw some on the back. And then fold over your edge. And you want that edge to be tight. So you want to kind of give it a little pull. Not so much so that you tear your foil, and it tears pretty easily, so be careful. And smooth it out. And then same thing over here. And then this one, I'm actually going to do some onto my foil. And I'm going to fold it over. And I want to make sure that I get it nice and tight. So when I'm putting it on there, I kind of pull it up, and then I pull it over. So up and over. And get that all glued down. And then I'm going to do the same thing on my ends. And so basically when you get finished, you should have this neat, nice little package, this little shiny tile. Pull up and over. And up and over. All right. Now, I'm going to flip it back. And you can kind of see here, you can see on the side here, you can see my edge a little bit. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that and just flip it to the back. You want your edges to be like really, really nice and crisp. All right. I got a bunch of glue on my fingers. Okay. So now you're going to grab your Q-tips and you're going to make sure that you don't put your fingernails on there because it will tear the foil. That's why we're going to use the Q-tips. But this is like the cool part. This is like my favorite part because you're thinking like, oh, that already looks cool. But then when you start like really working in here and pressing the foil down and it starts to, you know, attach down onto the glue that's there and it really starts to reveal your pattern, it's so awesome. All right, so here we go. I'm just taking my Q-tip and I'm running it right up next to where my glue lines are. And you want to get it up as close as you can to the glue line. And when you've got your little, those little kind of petal shapes that I had, you want to get inside there. And you're just going to basically keep doing that until you get your pattern done. And it goes really quick. Like I said, it's my favorite part. I get done so quick that I'm like, oh man, I love that part. It's like when you really kind of get to see all your hard work and see how it turned out. And then sometimes your Q-tip will start to kind of wear down, and when that happens, you can kind of flip it and kind of use the other side of the of your Q-tip. And it's really just making sure that you get everything pressed down, and you don't want to press so hard, because if you press really, really hard, you will put a little tear in there. I actually have a little tear in my other example. And we worked around it. I'm getting some glue on there, so I'm going to move to another one. So this part of it, once you get this done, you're going to be ready to start adding your color. So that's when you want to kind of start thinking about, since you're doing your radial symmetry, you want to be thinking about, you know, what colors are you going to use, and depending on what your pattern is, you know, that might kind of dictate what colors you would like to choose. But I would suggest, these are typically very, very colorful. So you want to use a lot of colors, but you don't want it to just look like you just picked up a color and just started. You want it to look like you had a plan. So give it some thought. Sometimes I will like kind of lay my colors out and go, well, do I like that beside each other? It's always good to think about, you know, your complementary colors, because those always, they make each other look good. So those are a no-brainer for sure. You could also do, you know, like warm and cool colors. All right. I'm just about done. All right, last one. Now, when I was doing this earlier, it was this little center part that tore. Okay, so now it looks like this. See how you can really see the design really, really well. So that in itself, you could like stop right there and just have awesomeness right there. But we're going to take it a step further. All right, so let's get your markers. And this is where you're going to start thinking about your color pattern that you want to create. And you can start doing your color patterns. And all you're going to do, you kind of have to be careful when you start to color with these, because for whatever reason, this is very delicate. And, you know, sometimes it'll tear your foil. So you want to color it in fully, but don't press like super, super hard. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this part, this lime green color. And the other thing about this that's kind of cool is the color part goes pretty quick. And you don't have to be like super, it doesn't have to be your best coloring in the whole wide world, but you do want to get everything kind of colored in. You don't want to have any of the little pieces of silver still kind of showing. And unless that's part of your design. And if that's part of your design, then obviously you can do that. And just remember, if you get out of your lines, you can just kind of work with it and kind of fix things a little bit. All right, now, like when you come in here and you are doing color into these areas, you want to, it's kind of like you have to decide, are you going to run it up next to this little bumped up area, or do you want to try to stay away from that? And so you kind of have to make that decision. I really like my silver bumped up areas to show. So I like to go just right beside it, but not, you know, I'm thinking I'll do my flower parts actually. But I don't want to, you know, I don't want to take away from that at all. So I'm going to do my petals first. And sometimes also if you press too hard with your markers, you'll get kind of like these little lines. And you want to try to avoid that. So press hard enough that, you know, you're getting some color on there, but not so hard that it actually kind of starts taking the marker off because you're pushing so hard. And we are wanting these to be symmetrical, which means I want them to be the same on both sides. So whatever I do on this side, I'm going to do on this side. And I usually start out by just kind of doing a little outline, and then I can just quickly fill in. I got a little tear there. I think it'll be okay though. And I was kind of thinking I was going to do more warm colors kind of on my flowers, and then I would do more cool colors kind of towards the center part and radiating out. So I'm going to be doing, I think I'm going to do the center part, kind of this hot pink color. Now the other thing that you can do, I kind of like to make all my areas, I like to fill it in, but you could also, you know, you could do a dot pattern inside here. If you've got big areas kind of like this one, you could do some kind of a pattern inside there and it would look really nice as well. I like to kind of keep mine kind of simple though. If you do get a tear, just kind of flatten it down with your fingers as best you can, and then just color over it with the marker like you normally would, and probably no one will even notice that it's there. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm going to let you guys go to the quote of the day. Dutch graphic artist M.C. Escher said, "He who wonders discovers that this in itself is wonder." Okay, so I am continuing, moving along here, and I'm actually making, I was thinking a lot of times whenever I do these projects, I try to make my end example and the one that I'm working on the same, but I decided that with this one, I was going to make this one a little bit different, because I got to thinking, like, how cool would it be like if you did like a whole set of these and put them all together like in a really big frame? They would look so awesome all together. So I decided I was going to make this one different because I just might do that. So I'm already on my way. I've got two. I just need two more and I can have a really awesome looking little art installation. And I am keeping my patterns, my color patterns, symmetrical. The other thing this would be awesome on, of course you probably wouldn't want to use the square shape that we're using, but this would be an awesome thing to do to make, you know, ornaments or make little decorative like gift tags you could even do. Would be really awesome. I have got a few more areas to get into here. Also, the other thing I was thinking is your with your whatever your permanent markers are that you choose to use, this set that I got is not like a normal set. I think it was like called the tropical set. So I've got some really awesome like turquoisey blues in here, and some more kind of a lighter, kind of almost like a pool blue. And so that looks nice. If you can get your hands on some permanent markers that have some brighter colors in them, it really makes a big difference. And you can see like the coloring part goes really, really quick because you don't have to be too particular about it. And not only that, but I mean, you're working in a pretty small area. So I think I've got these last two, and then I will be able to show you both of my pieces. I really like this lime green color. All right. And remember, if you get a little tear, just color right on over it. Just go over, even if it gets onto the paper, it tears down to the paper, just color the paper. And really, it's very hard to detect, so don't worry about it. All right, and then last kind of thing I would do is just kind of look over and make sure you have all your little areas all plugged in and cleaned up and look nice. And I'm going to pull over my other example so I can kind of put them together and show you. This one's a little bit smaller. I'll hold them up for you. So you have something that is similar but just a little bit different with some different colors. And so a whole series of these would be awesome. So I think I'm going to move on to that. I'm going to be making some more of these, I do believe. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Amazing Art Show. Now go out and make some amazing art.